We've all heard of single point of concentration. It's the backbone of most mindfulness practices. Some say it's merely the act of quieting the mind, and to some degree that's true. However, the mind isn't always a quiet place. A lot of internal chatter will continue no matter how much we focus on our breathing, or a mantra, or any other sort of anchor we attach our attention to. Thoughts still arise and pass through our minds like clouds in a boundless sky. Mindfulness practice is less about quieting the mind than it is learning to become a quiet observer who watches the clouds pass by. Obviously, this is a skill acquired as we deepen our ability to concentrate. But what is concentration? Rosicrucians would say concentration is the ability to channel our physical, mental, and spiritual energy to attain a specific goal. Physical concentration would be channeling all of our muscular energy in a specific part of our bodies. Think of muscle mommies that concentrate on a specific muscle group. Professional athletes have even started visualizing their goals and applying some of what we call manifestation into their workout routines. Yoga combines this form of energy to awaken specific spiritual centers and bring balance between spirit and body. Except yogis in the East don't leave it on the mat and continue the concentration no matter what activity the body is engaged in. We can direct mental energy towards a specific part of the outer world and use it to concentrate on all of these abstract ideas floating around. Think of Tesla describing how blueprints seem to beam into his mind from whatever planet he came from. Lastly, we have spiritual energy, which we can use to concentrate and channel at a specific point of our choosing. Of course, this can only happen when our spiritual consciousness has been awakened. When we direct our mental concentration at the physical world, it's always engaged in how we perceive things through our senses. Our thought life becomes wrapped up in the object of our attention. Where your focus goes, intention follows, right? We can generalize and say concentration is being at one with the thing we're focusing on. When we truly step into union with the integrated state of our objective consciousness, it just sort of fades away, and we wade into the waters of the ocean that we call the cosmic mind. Who we are and where we're from, our impressions of being, they just sort of fade away. Why else would monks start their meditative training with focusing on the breath? It stills the mind's desire to get caught up in the comings and goings and strengthens observation without action. Okay, so how do we lay people in the working class trenches of the Western world go about integrating concentration in our daily lives? Meditation, right? Great, but why leave it on the mat when we carry our senses around with us everywhere we go? Nature will eternally be my temple. Oftentimes I meditate outside in the woods. An easy way to strengthen our visual concentration is to focus on a particularly lovely scene, mentally photographing the landscape, drawing the image in our minds. After a few minutes, try closing your eyes and recreate the scene piece by piece. Now, you can literally do this at your desk at work as well. It's a great way to take a mental break in a mix of anything, right? All it requires is noting all of the details in front of you. After a few minutes, close your eyes and recreate what you see. Verify your success and open your eyes and continue the process until you can recall everything in detail. From there, take note of the fragrances dancing around through the air. Single out a particular odor and hone your attention in on it. Think of only that smell to develop a sensation of merging with it. It could be incense, a candle, it doesn't really matter. The point is that we should allow the scent to enter into our being. Since I'm usually doing this in nature, I'll continue my stroll through the woods until I happen upon a place I want to sit down. Then I reach around me with my eyes closed and I find a random object. Feeling it with my fingers, I find its angles, the hollows, its rough points, and smooth edges. The whole time I'm trying to see it in my mind in all of its entirety. After a few minutes, I'll open my eyes and verify whether or not the shape I saw in my mind matches the object itself. Next, we can turn our attention to what we hear. If music is what you have on hand, then simply pick out a specific instrument in the overall composition and see if you can focus on just it for a while. If you're in nature, listen to the sounds of wind through the trees or the sounds of birds as they chirp. Whatever it is, the goal isn't to distinguish what they are, but rather to enhance your ability to concentrate solely on a specific thing you can hear. Now here's where it gets really tricky. Can you combine all of those sensations together at the same time? By focusing on the weight of your body against the ground or your chair, depending on where you happen to be, while still being aware of whatever fragrances are in the air and the landscape around you. It's a bit of a task, but eventually we all reach a place where we can be completely integrated right here and right now. Side note, at some point, I'll really get into Merkaba mysticism and some of the more complex systems the prophets had, but for now, it's enough to be able to fully engage the senses and become one with them. How does your spiritual self respond to everything that it's taking in? That's the question. That's the goal. To note the subtle shifts in our conscious awareness while focusing on the senses. To expand on taste a bit, let's consider eating. Next time you eat a piece of fruit, take the time to really savor it. By awakening sensitivity to taste, we can produce some very interesting psychological and psychic experiences. Plants have a life of their own. They oftentimes journey great distances to get to our tables for us to enjoy. Every now and again, we can catch glimpses of nature working just by eating. There's a ton that could be said about cycles of life and how Mother Earth provides for all of her children by giving us nourishments that we then return to the ground after we have taken what we need for survival. It's the whole cycle of life in each bite, right? Another time, though. For now, try these simple exercises because they are incredibly useful for increasing your clarity of perception. By training ourselves to memorize sensory perceptions, we can really hone in on our ability to visualize in a meditative state. All this will serve us later. This is how we start to tune into the extrasensory form of spirit permeating all things. Our intuitions develop as we learn to decipher what we're taking in. Everything's an exchange of energy, right? Why not capitalize that and grow through our everyday experience? Remember, the goal of spiritual practice is to enter into a state where we begin to recognize the influences beyond our physical world and senses beyond the world of forms. In your mind, constantly meditate on the divine presence. Have no other thought in your mind other than your love. Seeking that should bind itself to you. Constantly repeat in your mind, when will I be worthy of the light of the divine presence to dwell with me? The only thing that needs to be torn down is the notion that we exist solely to and of ourselves. It's through prayer and meditation that we realize the truth. Our sole purpose here is to love one another as divinity loves us and dance through the mystery of it all together. We know very little. Our finite minds can compute and ascertain, but at the end of the day, we don't know much. There's nothing more we need to understand except that we are here together and must cherish that opportunity. Whatever this experience is, it is greatly enhanced through playful interaction with existence. We are meant to grow and evolve, to move beyond our wildest dreams, but none of that is possible without love. Love's the universal language that binds us all together and makes the experience meaningful. God is love, right? God is also our conscious awareness of being, meaning we are light and love at our core. That is the divine presence every seeker is ultimately looking for. Love sees beyond forms and accepts things as they are. That's why we always close with keep breathing in light and living in love. It sums up the entire path. Deuces, ladies and gentlemen.